And good Tuesday evening, Mid-Michigan. Chief Meteorologist Chris Easlick with your nightly weather update. And that stream brought to you by Bresky Siding Building Repair. Tonight we look at the sky tracker as we kick off tonight's stream. And it appears we've got what looks to be some mixed precipitation streaking through the area right now. There is a weak cold front that is currently moving its way across the Great Lakes region. It is currently right around the western parts of Lake Superior, so a little bit closer to Minnesota tonight rather than mid-Michigan, but out ahead of it we've got a little moisture that is streaming through, but not much of it is actually hitting the ground. If I take a look at the METAR observations are just a look at some of the ground observation sites. So if you ever hear us refer to the ground observation sensors around the area, we take a look at some of these areas that are around some of this precipitation that is moving through. And usually when we're looking for precipitation that's reaching the ground, we're looking at one of these stations where my mouse is going to have usually a red indicator. And we are not seeing that for the time being. Doesn't necessarily mean this all isn't hitting the ground. But the fact that we're not getting even a little bit being detected at ground level tells me that the air is pretty dry. And so likely what you're seeing is you're likely seeing some of this precipitation being detected at the top of the cloud, and it's just evaporating before it comes down to the ground. So that is where things sit for tonight. Our main concern here as we go through the next couple of days continues to be on the Friday morning commute, the late Thursday night and Friday morning commute time frame. That is when we talked about our stream last night. And we talked about the possibility of a icy morning commute on Friday potentially. Still to the point where things are trying to iron themselves out when it comes to the amount of precipitation that we see and how quickly things cool down. But it's enough for us to be concerned with. So we want to highlight that commute that we see going towards the end of the week. And one of the big reasons why we're concerned about that is your 10-day temperature outlook here shows that we've got temps warming up into the 40s on Thursday, which sounds pretty nice during the day, even with a little bit of rain. Just the fact that we'll have some warmer temperatures, unless you're really involved in winter recreation or something like that. If you're just hoping to go outside without a wind chill that's in the teens or single digits, well, 42 is going to feel pretty nice as we head towards Thursday. I think we probably feel more like the 30s considering some of the winds that will come through, but even wind chills in the 30s will feel like a dramatic difference compared to what we have been dealing with. But the problem is after that 42, you know, we're not just transitioning over to 35. That 42 is immediately going down into the upper teens and low 20s on Friday morning, and then we're really not warming up from there. And so what we have is the potential for a flash freeze going into Friday morning, which is never a fun thing to do. And so we've got parents wondering about school on Friday. It's a little bit tough to say right now. It depends on some of the road treatments that typically happen in your district. Are you a more rural district? Are you a more city district? I think those types of questions are going to be big as we head into Thursday night and also Friday. So it's a really tough thing to tell you right now, but we at least want the awareness out there so you have the ability to make potentially a plan. And this is just that graphic again for anyone who is joining the stream at this point. Have people coming and going all the time. But we want to highlight this just in case that you can get that backup plan in your mind. I know a lot of students might even be finishing up on Friday. Maybe they have a half day instead. But we at least want you to know so you can make childcare arrangements, so you can plan a little bit better. Maybe that appointment might be flexible in the afternoon or flexible from the morning to the afternoon. I know appointments aren't always easy to move, but maybe it's something, hey, can I find a better time? Can I come in a little bit later? Not necessarily saying you have to do that, but it might be something that's worth exploring just to be on the safe side. And the difficulty about those flash freeze scenarios is you know, we do expect icy roads. Science says we're expecting icy roads, but you get a good treatment plan in place for some areas, and some of that could be a bit mitigated. So it really just depends on a localized level how things go Thursday night. But our job is to prepare you for the possibility. And so we want you to know about that. Thursday itself, I think, starts mostly dry. I do think we'll have some clouds on the way, and those will probably have taken over by Thursday morning. Then we go through Thursday itself. Rain becomes a bit more common as we go through Thursday morning, and then really starts to pick up mid-afternoon into the evening. You'll also notice that our temperatures really start to spike with some of that rain coming through as well. Did get the question a lot on our live stream last night was, are we going to expect any fog on Thursday? I think the wind will be strong enough Thursday where we don't necessarily have to worry about fog. I think you might get some of those misty skies. It almost looks like you've got more elevated fog rather than fog near the ground. But I think the wind will be strong enough to prevent that from becoming a problem at the surface. We'll obviously keep track of that. But rain is going to be a pretty constant thing. I think through the afternoon and evening, probably a bit more scattered comparatively to the first half of the day. And then also you'll notice as we get further into the evening, you got more of those spots of yellow popping up, indicating we've got some moderate to maybe heavy pockets of rain. The good news is they're not prolonged periods of heavy rain. So I don't necessarily think we're talking about a major flooding threat. And we did talk about this a little bit last night too, is we've got all the snow on the ground. We've got rain coming in on top of that. Do we have to worry about flooding? And I don't necessarily think on a major scale, we'll no doubt have some standing water. I think you add snow that's melting, you've got water coming down. You've got potentially some drains blocked because of the snow plows pushing all of that snow off to the side there. Not necessarily intentionally, but things get plugged up every once in a while. So I think poor drainage areas, we might have some issues on Thursday. But I think this is where it's not helpful during the summer, and it's certainly not a problem that we want to linger. But the fact that we were so dry going into our winter months, we can absorb, I think, this amount of moisture. We can absorb a quarter to a half inch of rain on top of what's melting with the snow. And I hesitate to say it's a good thing, but one of the impacts of that freeze that happens Thursday night is a lot of this water that's standing around, well, it will freeze in place eventually, and so that keeps it from becoming a major issue with some of our rivers and streams and things like that. But that's kind of a pick your poison scenario. We don't necessarily want the ice on the roads, but because it's on the roads and other surfaces, it doesn't necessarily get into the water system as far as like the rivers and streams directly. However, even if we had that happen, I think those are to a level. A lot of people were sending me pictures before we got all the snow on the ground of a lot of waterways that were really low. Some of the lowest they've said that they have seen in quite some time. And so I think even if we didn't have the freeze up, we would be okay with that. But there's kind of some give and take there. So let me take a look really quick. Sherry says, so no fog on Thursday. I think the wind is going to be strong enough to at least make it a point where it's not going to be a major problem. Again, I think you could see some misty skies, almost like that. I think I referred to it as kind of a London look last night. Susie, one of my former students, are the salt trucks going to be out in the morning on Friday? I would say they will be out as soon as the rain stops. I did talk to a person at MDOT, and they told me that they don't like to treat, it depends a little bit on how hard the rain is coming down, but they do not like to treat when the rain is falling because you do not want your treatment to wash away. But I would say is probably as soon as the rain stops. And MDOT, I already talked to them. They are aware. They are watching this situation closely, which you would expect, of course. But they are prepared, it sounds like, as soon as they can get out there Thursday night, is they will be out there. So I think that's a good sign. There is some advance notice to this. You can put a plan in place. And I would be shocked if they weren't prepared the minute that they can go out on Thursday night. Now, of course, with road treatments, a lot of times we get the comment, well, I haven't seen a single truck. They're out there, I promise. And you can find on the MI Drive map, they have the ability to see the snow plows, and you can watch their progress too. Now, the unfortunate thing is we probably won't be able to get to every single road on Thursday night, and I think that's another problem is, main roads, hey, we get the treatments on, we get a couple of hours to work before things start to fall below freezing. Can we mitigate the problems on main roads? Perhaps, but you've got back roads, you've got side streets, those were a problem with that snow day we had recently last week on Wednesday. And main roads weren't exactly fun either during the morning commute, but those side streets were a problem going into Thursday. So the plows will be out, and they are aware of this, and they'll be watching it closely. So we'll see what happens Thursday night. Let's see here. Good question, Susie. Eric asks, Friday morning school closings out of caution. I would say if I'm in a rural district with a lot of back roads, I don't make that call. But I would say if you've got a lot of side streets and a lot of back roads on Friday, those are the districts that I think are most susceptible. We'll see. Always a tough call with school closings. And the key with flash freeze situations, and this is also a look at what happens after the rain moves out. I think we get some snow showers too. They'll be scattered, but you see our temperatures Friday morning, we've got teens and low 20s. And then even as the students get ready for school, back up just a little bit, the traditional time that they'd be getting ready for school, you've got teens and low 20s as well. I'm trying to think of where I was going with that. Lost my train of thought. But anyway, I think it's possible we see some school closings, but keyword on possible. All of it really depends. The amount of rain we expect to see, I think it's about 1/4 to 1/2 inch over most of the area, which again I think is a manageable amount. It will be soggy Thursday. You're melting snow, you're adding rain on top of that, no doubt. Sending the dog out, the dog will be a little bit muddy or snowy, depending on how much snowpack you have. Some have more than others. But we will have about 1/4 to 1/2 inch. I wouldn't even be shocked if we can get some good rainfall rates, which there are hints of. If we can get a few spots, maybe just a little bit above 1/2 inch. But I wouldn't necessarily say it's an overwhelming rain, just a kind of a steady rain that moves through during the day. Let's see what else we've got. Again, here's the long term. The question I also keep getting is, excuse me, I feel like I've been battling this cold for like 3 weeks now. I'm sure I'm not alone in that. But we've got Christmas next Thursday. And so the question I keep getting, well, is after this warm up, are we going to stay cold? Are we going to be able to keep our snow around? And I think it depends. We're not necessarily seeing another spike in the upper 30s to low 40s, but we've got a day here in the mid 30s. We'll probably melt a little bit more, then refreeze, then melt a little bit more, and then we're kind of borderline going into the holiday. So I would say the more you've got on the ground, the better chance you have, which seems obvious, right? But I think if you've got, maybe an inch or two on the ground, you're probably in trouble because I don't see any major snowfall chances before Christmas. But if you've got 5-6 inches on the ground, maybe up to 7-8, depending on some of our hardest hit areas over the last couple of weeks, I think you can probably keep most of it around. But we'll see. But yeah, that's kind of my spiel for tonight. We will have some scattered lake effect following the rain. You get this rain that comes through Thursday night, you get some snow. Maybe that adds a little bit of traction in some of the areas that see the few snow showers. And then we get some throughout the day Friday. But that's pretty much where things stand. If you're wondering about any of the precipitation we have tonight, mentioned this during our early evening newscast, kind of a deceiving radar this evening. If you take a look at again, we call these METAR observations. If you take a look at these, most of the area is not really seeing any of this precipitation reaching the ground, but the exception, just within the last couple of minutes, we hadn't been seeing much up to this point, but it appears we've got, looks like we're reporting a little bit of rain in Oscoda. So that's important because our temperature in Oscoda, see where we're at right now, is about 34. So we're at least above freezing in Oscoda as that's coming down. But that's one thing we'll be watching for tonight on more of an isolated basis. We'll be watching any precipitation that happens now, drizzle, freezing rain. Wouldn't necessarily call it a heavy freezing rain if that happens. But if that temperature drops down in Oscoda, or if our road temperature is still on the chilly side, perhaps some patchy, icy areas tonight through early tomorrow. But eventually, once the cold front comes through, we should be able to get rid of that threat for drizzle. And then as I wrap up, unless some of you have some questions, this is where we'll end it. We'll, of course, be talking about the flash freeze for the next couple of days. But this is what your 7-day looks like. A few snow showers Friday after we get that system from Thursday out of our hair. A few snow showers on Saturday. And then it looks like as the winter season arrives, we've got the potential for some drier weather moving into early next week. So Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, and then Christmas Eve on Wednesday. So far it looks pretty quiet, which isn't necessarily a bad thing if you're traveling. So we'll take that. But yeah, the 21st, I believe, is this weekend. And so that would be the typical day for winter to start. And so some of you have said, well, we've been long past winter starting, and I agree with that. Fast start this year. But if you follow the astronomical calendar, winter starts on Sunday. But also what that does signify is we've got the shortest day of the year on Sunday. So there is something about that day. We get the shortest amount of daylight, and then it's all up from there. We get more daylight every single day after that, all the way till June. So we're making progress. All right, not seeing any more questions coming through. To summarize, the video's too long, didn't watch. Here's your summary. We've got the potential for a flash freeze Thursday night. Could have some icy roads Friday morning. School closings, at this time we can just say possible. Too early to say for sure, but I would say if your student is in session on Friday, or if you're a staff member, pay attention to the forecast the next couple of days. We'll see what happens as we get closer. Craig, good to see you. Unfortunately, Craig, I'm about to end the live stream, but good to see you anyway. But that's pretty much the main thing we're watching. And watch any slippery areas tonight, but those are more isolated, more minor, I think, compared to what Friday would be. But Matthew, of course, will have your traffic map in the morning if you need that. So we will end it there. Thank you all for watching as usual, and we will see you tomorrow night.